All right, in today's video, I'm gonna be answering the question, should you ditch your bathroom scale? And that's because for a lot of you, I know just the appearance of this thing brings along a lot of stress and anxiety, and you probably want to throw it in the garbage and never see it again. And that's probably the wrong way of looking at things, especially if you want to lose fat, lose weight, improve your body composition. There's a different way to use this thing. There's a different way to interpret the actual data, and it'll set you up for success long term. So let's dive into that. All right, so the first thing you want to do is weigh yourself more frequently, ideally on a daily basis, but sometimes 5, 6, 7 times per week under the same conditions. So at the exact same time per day, roughly, like most of us have a set schedule, but at the same time per day, first thing in the morning, ideally after you go to the bathroom under, wearing the same clothing or just underwear. And doing it that way is going to keep everything relative so you can assess big picture trends. Let me tell you why that is important. All right, here's the first thing you need to remember about a body weight measurement. As you get on the scale, all this number is a measurement of your weight against gravity, against the world. It's just a number. It is not a reflection of your self-worth. It's not a reflection of how good of you are as a person or what you need to change. None of that stuff. So if you're thinking that way, number one, it's not just as easy as saying, don't think that way, but you need to start approaching this number a little bit differently because it can be a really good proxy measurement of our health and some of the changes that are being made, especially when we're focusing on our nutrition and our fitness and weight training. It can be a powerful tool to give you some sense if things are changing, especially if the outcome you want to achieve is weight loss. So I know there's a lot of stress and anxiety that goes along with weighing yourself, but if you go at it a little bit differently and just use it and think about it as another number, and that is just a piece of the puzzle and some indication of how things are going, you're going to start looking at it differently and can start using that number to your advantage. So that's the first thing you need to remember. The second thing is, as you get on this scale, as you step on it, you need to remember a few things. There's going to be a bunch of different ways of measuring your body weight, different scales, different prices, different, levels of quality. It's just a relative measurement of that's how we want to assess and look at things. So the more data, the better. Ideally, if you just weigh yourself one time and the numbers shocks and surprise you because you haven't done that all that often, that's not very useful. But if you do it more often at the same time of day, first thing in the morning, after going to the bathroom, under similar conditions, you will get a better idea of how things fluctuate through time. And through that point, can start to take a look at big picture differences. The differences between the averages of 5, 6, 7 weekly measurements compared to the next week, and then get a sense of how things are changing. This is going to be really helpful for you to be able to assess the difference between do I need to make any changes with my nutrition? The biggest thing is you're trying to be consistent and look at things on a week to week basis for trends as opposed to single data points. And that's because when your body weight shifts on a weekly basis or a daily basis, like day to day, that's going to be much more influenced by your total body water and the water you're carrying, as well as things like the amount of food in your gut that you're still digesting. It's not that good of measurement on a day-to-day basis of what's changing within your actual physical body tissue, which is what a lot of people want to do. They want to make changes they want to lose some fat, they want to gain some muscle. We're not going to be able to assess that on a day-to-day basis, but we can do that over a weekly basis if we have more consistent data that gives us a sense of the trends. On a long-term basis, we're talking weeks, months, and even years. Your body weight measurement is a really good reflection of what's changing within your body fat tissue and your body muscle mass, those type of things. So which is why it's more important to get closer to it. So here's what you want to do. You want to at least 3 times per week get on the bathroom scale, and you want to measure under similar conditions around the same time of day. Little fun fact, if you don't eat or drink anything and just sit there for an hour, you will be approximately 100 grams less because you're sweating things out, which you're just sitting there sweating, nothing's coming in. I've done enough body weight measurements and trained for weight class sports to know that that is the truth. It's even faster, 100 grams in 10 minutes if you're sweating. So you do want to do things at the similar time under similar conditions to get the best sense of what things look like. Now, is there a time where you're traveling? It's not always the same. Probably still a good idea to do it. And we'll talk about why that is the case in a few minutes here. Still a good idea to do it, but you just know that things could be a little bit different. You could be a little bit heavier. You could be a little bit lighter if it's longer in the day and you fasted for longer. The thing about this stuff is instead of saying, I'm going to ditch the scale entirely and not pay attention to this stuff, I'm now starting to get closer to those numbers as opposed to further away and have better control of it, better understanding of it. And I only do that by doing it more frequently and less frequently. If you only weigh yourself once a year, best case scenario at the doctor's office, and you're surprised and shocked by the number, I wouldn't blame you for wanting to ditch the scale. But that shouldn't be the case with something that's simple and easy, non-invasive to do. It takes you, 3 minutes under similar conditions, give you a good sense of how things are changing, but you gotta approach it correctly. One last thing about these bathroom scales that you place on the floor and automatically go on, the sensors that are in it, first of all, I don't know if I'm using the exact right terminology for some of the technology here, but you put it down and it clicks on, right? And it clicks on one of those things. If you move it around a lot or move it in the same place every day, it kind of works on being level and stuff. It can give you different readings, especially if you place it standing up and then place it down and then get on it right after. It's not always the most accurate. My best advice for this is, it doesn't mean getting a more expensive scale, but it's probably a good idea to get a reputable one, as well as just try to keep it in the same place and get on and off it when possible. I know sometimes you're going to have to travel with things, that type of stuff, maybe use a different scale. That's okay. Again, it's just different data point. But when possible, leave it in the same place and leave it sitting down. So you're not putting it up and down, and especially not getting on it right after you set it down and it automatically turns on. Here's why it's so important to not ditch the scale and actually to weigh yourself more frequently. There have been several studies that show if your goal is weight loss and you're focused on improving your body composition, that weighing yourself, doing it yourself, self-weighing more regularly actually improves your results. It's one of the best things you can do. Consistently weighing yourself, not just once a year and not just weekly either, but frequent weigh-ins, ideally daily, leads to better outcomes in the short term in terms of weight loss, but also weight maintenance. And this is shown in not just studies, but randomized control trials as well. Here's what's most important for you. Frequency matters. Daily or near daily weighing leads to the best outcomes, not just doing it every once in a while, and definitely not just doing it once a year at the doctor's office. And this just isn't for weight loss as well, but also weight maintenance. It's really productive in both phases. And that's because of the behavior you're creating. It leads to much more awareness around your body weight, and you're able to lose weight and maintain weight because you're paying more attention to it. You're also learning what influences your body weight, both in the short term and long term. If you have a super salty meal or you do a really intense workout, you start to notice the trends and you're not so wrapped into that specific daily number. You're assessing the big picture here. As well as the more data you have, the more you can make adjustments. So you're seeing those trends and you can respond with the right interventions or changes to your nutrition and diet accordingly and in real time. And this may surprise you, but contrary to popular concern, frequent weigh-ins do not lead to negative health or psychological behaviors in most people. It's not a bad thing. So you don't have to worry about that. Now, if you are someone that in the past you weighed yourself a lot and you know you have a really poor relationship with the scale, I'm not encouraging you to go do it. You might be the exception here. But for most people, getting closer to this number is a good thing. With that being said, it's never a bad idea to have an objective expert set of eyes on your body weight and your nutrition. So if you're looking for some expert guidance, myself and my team are currently taking on nutrition clients. You can apply to work with us down in the first link in the description below. If you're looking for nutrition coaching or want some specific guidance on how to achieve a result, I may be able to help. Fill me in on your situation down at that application below, and I'll send you over next steps. Okay, let me show you why it's so important to actually measure these trends. Here are 2 clients that I've been working with for an extended period of time. This first one is 25 pounds lost over 23 weeks. You can start to look at the actual day-to-day trends. This, for example, measured his body weight 5 times over the week. There's 4 or 5 pound swings, and his nutrition is very well controlled. So this has a lot to do with number one, when your body composition is changing, you could be losing fat or gaining muscle, and it doesn't always show up on the scale because, again, on a day-to-day basis, your body weight is much more influenced by the amount of water you're carrying, which can be because of the amount of sodium you're eating and electrolytes, and you're retaining more water or doing a really intense workout or losing some weight, which at times can be masked by water retention. Or if you eat a huge amount of vegetables one day more than you're used to, like a kilo or 2 pounds of vegetables isn't going to supply a lot of calories, which will change your body composition over a longer period of time, but it will add a lot more weight. So when you weigh in the morning, like those type of changes. So we don't see that stuff. Like we see that stuff show up on a day-to-day basis. But when we look at the trends on a weekly basis and the averages of taking 5 body weight measurements, we see that yes, there are changes day to day. But this week 9 here compared to week 10, we see a drop of 2 pounds on the weekly average, right? So, someone that's well controlled and taking care of their nutrition, we see these changes on a week to week basis and it can assess that stuff. So that's why taking trends is so important, because we see changes on a day-to-day basis. He's doing all the right things. He's controlling his nutrition. But we got to look at what it looks like on a weekly average trend. And from that point, when you're scrolling up and looking at this stuff here, it is around 1 pound each and every week. This 2 weeks, things didn't change all that much. Maybe we made some changes to his nutrition to keep him moving on a deficit. Another example here, let me pull up this client here where we see, okay, I've been working with her for about 2 months. She's down nearly like 7 kilos. There's blips in this graph here where the weight actually goes up. It's not all linear. It comes up, it comes down, but the overall trend, because we continue to measure this through time, we didn't just get frustrated and ditch the scale. We're seeing that there's a trend line here. There's things that we're seeing that are moving in the right direction. And that's why it's important to do more frequent measurements, because number one, it's accessible and we can do it most days, but over longer periods of time, it gives us a really good idea that this confirms with her that number one, she's losing weight and losing fat, because she's also doing things like taking progress pictures, assessing how her clothes are fitting and visually how she looks. But this is just another piece of the puzzle and probably one of the more helpful ones, because we see that although it doesn't always go down in a straight line, the overall trend is that it goes down over time. So we got to keep this stuff in perspective. Now, there is a big difference between what your body weight number reads, which is going to be a measurement of your total weight, and your body composition. Those are two different things. When we speak about your body composition, if we were to separate your body out into 2 compartments, 2 main things, one and the other, you'd have lean body mass, which accounts for all the muscle that you have, but also water and bone. And the rest of your body weight would be body fat mass. And usually when we're talking about improving your body composition, you're looking to improve the ratio between these 2 things. You're looking to gain muscle mass and lose body fat mass. Typically, this leads to better health outcomes, and that's what most people are trying to achieve. Or lose a lot of body fat while trying to maintain the muscle that you have. Now, with that being said, if you're just measuring your body weight on a bathroom scale, we don't always know where those changes to your body weight are coming from. Is it lean body mass? Or is it fat mass? This doesn't necessarily mean the scale is a bad thing, because over the long term, if you gain a lot of weight, ideally it will be from lean body mass, especially if you're paying more attention to it. And if you lose a lot of weight, the majority of it should be from fat mass. And we can still assess that, and if we're moving in the right direction, through taking more frequent body weight measurements. In an ideal scenario, we would be doing more body composition testing as well as more frequent weighing, so we can really get to the bottom of where those changes are coming from. With my nutrition clients, we typically do a lot of in-body testing, which is a form of bioelectrical impedance analysis. Send low-level electrical currents through your body with 6 sensors to get a sense of different densities of tissues and water and muscle in your body and assess what's really changing. But we don't do that on a super frequent basis either. We do that every 3 months, 6 months. Whereas you can get a good proxy or representation of those changes by just doing more frequent weighing. So yes, the bathroom scale measurement and just your basic body weight measurement doesn't give us the best sense, in the short term of what's changing with your body composition. But over the long term, it does give us a pretty good idea of what's changing and reinforces some of the habits and behaviors and things we're doing to make those changes. In an ideal scenario, though, you'd be doing some body composition testing as well, like the InBody scan, but also maybe a DEXA scan, something like that, on a less frequent basis, once a year, a couple times a year, to get a sense of where the body composition changes are coming from. But not everyone's going to have access to that from both a financial perspective, but also just the equipment. Typically, they're at university settings and those type of things. Maybe you don't have access to that. That's why a bathroom scale measurement and weighing yourself more frequently is still helpful. Now, a lot of people will also get wrapped into the BMI, so your body mass index, which is essentially going to be a density calculation. So you take your body weight and divide it by your height, and you get a sense of how dense you are. This has historically been used to categorize people as obese and normal weight. And like we were just talking about with body composition, that individual data point doesn't give us the best idea of what you're made up of. because you can be really dense and be carrying quite a bit of body weight for your height, but it could be coming from muscle. So it could categorize you as obese when in reality, you don't have that much body fat. You're at a healthy body fat level and are metabolically healthy. So it can be a little bit misleading. And I know this fires a lot of people up, especially those who lift weights. The BMI was designed originally to compare populations, like the population of Canada versus US, and the differences between the BMI, not to be used on an individual level to say you're obese and there's something that you should do about it. So I know the BMI and scale measurements get kind of lumped together as things that you don't necessarily need to be doing, but it's all about how we use this data. If you weigh yourself more frequently and get a sense of the trends and how it's changing on a week-to-week basis, and even taking a further, step out and a further view out and see how it's comparing over month to month, and if you're moving in the right direction, it can be really insightful. There you have it, folks. Should you ditch your scale? The answer is no, although I took a pretty long time to explain it. You should probably be using it more often, as long as you're using it correctly, which is using it as a relative measurement, weighing yourself more frequently under similar conditions to get a sense of the trends. And then you'll have a much better understanding and knowledge of what influences your body weight, and much more control over the behaviors that influence it and change it over the long term. If you learned something new today, feel free to pass this video along to someone else that would benefit from it. And as great as all those tips are, if you're really serious about improving your nutrition and your health, the next thing I'm gonna have you do is check out this video I've linked up right here. In this video, I'm gonna answer the question, should you take creatine, one of the most popular sports supplements out there? It's not just for gym bros anymore. Could be for you too. And you'll learn all about that in this video right here. So check it out now, and I'll see you in the next video.